Hey everybody out there, it's Pastor John with your Midweek Reflection. Filming this on our VBS World Tour trip to Brazil day, so that's why I'm dressed a little differently, in case you're wondering. But I've been looking at our passage for this Sunday, August 4th, and the passage is 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 1 through 11. And 1 Peter, I don't know about you, but it's been really challenging to me, and this passage was no different. Here's what's going through my head. Most of us as Christians would say that we want to be like Jesus. Most of us do not want to be like Jesus. If we look at Jesus' life, most of us do not want his life. We admire people like Jesus. We do not want to be like them. We don't want to risk like Jesus. We don't want to be uncomfortable like Jesus. We don't want to be rejected like Jesus. We don't want to suffer like Jesus. Unfortunately for us Christians, the call to discipleship is not a call just to admire Jesus, but to be like Jesus. And so we have to face this gap between our admiration for Jesus and wanting to be like Jesus, and what it is that keeps us from moving from admiration to really imitation. And so the big question for you guys to be thinking about as you prepare for worship on Sunday is when you make decisions, and if you think of your decisions about what you're going to do or not do, or how you're going to live, or anything like that, if you think of them as like a scale, that you weigh pros and cons, what gets more weight on that scale? Is it the me, the mine, and the momentary, or is it God, God's people, God's purpose? I think that for us, for most of us, whether we're going to suffer, how risky something is, whether we're going to be uncomfortable, has a lot of weight on that scale when we are deciding what we're going to do, how we're going to live. Peter talks a lot about suffering, and what he says is basically this: it's part of it. If you want to follow Jesus, suffering is part of it. Expect it. Be ready for it. Accept it. And it really shouldn't play much of a role at all in our calculations. It shouldn't weigh much at all on our scales, because that's what we signed up for when we said we want to follow Jesus. Alright, so that's the big question. What weighs more when you make decisions? The me, the mine, and the momentary, or God, God's people, and God's purpose? And then underneath that, I think as Christians, if we've been following Jesus for any amount of time, or if we've been struggling with God, or wondering if we're going to follow Jesus for any length of time, we all have things that we know that God wants us to do them. God is calling us to do these things, kinds of things, live this kind of way, but we don't really want to do, and we don't do. And so I want you to maybe think of one or two of those things. Maybe it's, the calling to enter deeply into community. Maybe it's the call to be and serve and live with the poor. Maybe it's the call to bridge gaps between different kinds of people. Whatever the case may be. What is this thing that you know God is calling you to do? And then what is it that keeps you from doing it? What is the thing that tips the scale away from doing this thing you know God is calling you to do, and is the deciding factor in living in another way, living apart from God's calling? So these are some tough questions. I hope you take some time to reflect upon them. As always, I look forward to worshiping with you on Sunday as we live the gospel life together. In the meantime, may God bless you.